Shopify Masters is powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. To get an extended 30-day trial, visit shopify.com/masters.
I mean, there's still times now where there's like a little bit of self-doubt. Like, is this the real thing? I don't think there's ever a moment of pure clarity.
Hey, my name is Felix. I'm the host of Shopify Masters. Each week, we learn the keys to success from e-commerce experts and entrepreneurs like you. In this episode, you'll learn how to keep your subscription box customers subscribed, how to create themes for your monthly subscription box service, and the power of recording and sharing your own unboxing experience. Today, I'm joined by Danny Tang from Boxu. Boxu is a premium subscription service that delivers thoughtfully curated boxes of authentic Japanese snacks and teas to your door every month. It was started in 2016 and based out of New York City, New York, and has shipped over almost 1 million snacks worldwide. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Felix.
Yeah, excited for you to be here. So tell us a little bit more about the brand. Like, who are your target customers?
Yeah, so I mean, Boxu as a brand is actually, it's in the logo itself. If one looks at the website, there's a English translated, like kind of romanization Boxu, and the Japanese character is actually pronounced Hako. And as a brand, it's kind of interpreted as a modern interpretation of traditional Japanese culture and food. And my target demographic are people around the world that have this like same, if not more, passion for Japanese food, culture, language, all of that I do. And I kind of wanted to reach them, especially because there's kind of a dearth of authentic Japanese food and culture worldwide. I mean, it doesn't seem like it because there is a lot of it, but a lot of times it's a little bit more mass-produced or slightly kind of targeted towards a anime manga crowd, which I mean, I personally love as well. But to get into more of the like kind of traditional makers and modern kind of culture that is in Japan nowadays, I wanted to start Boxu.
Got it. So what's your background? How did you get into starting this business? Have you started companies in the past?
This is actually my first kind of launch startup. I have been kind of doing entrepreneurship here and there, like as side gigs. For example, this is actually, I have never brought this up before, but in like high school, I used to kind of raise a little bit of money for one of the groups I was part of. I would go and like buy donuts at a local donuttery and like sell them for $1 each at my school and like kind of raise a little bit of money that way. So I'm used to kind of doing side projects. However, in terms of like official company, this is the first. I did a startup with a friend before launching Boxu where we kind of worked on creating a marketplace for a while, but we never officially launched it. So it was just the two of us. But in terms, Boxu's been the first for.
Yeah, I mean, your story is not that dissimilar from other successful entrepreneurs I've interviewed, where they start off in high school or even earlier, being a reseller of products that they buy in mass. I think it's a common trait that is in your DNA essentially. So you've started a bunch of side projects. You've attempted to start a lot of side businesses in the past before, but this is the one that has taken off. It sounds like. What makes this one the one that has become successful? Why do you think that? What did you do in this particular instance that made it a success compared to your other attempts?
I think that one really big difference is the fact that, I mean, this almost sounds a little cheesy, but is the fact that I'm so passionate about this company and what we do. In the past, a lot of times it was just to get kind of my feet wet or make a little extra money. But for this, especially because I was pivoting away from another startup that never took off, at this time I decided if I'm going to do a new startup and commit myself fully to it, it has to be something that I personally care about and have a bit of an advantage in. So like I speak Japanese fluently. I lived there for 4 years. And like in the beginning when it was just me kind of toiling away every day, like writing all the guides and sourcing everything and packing everything, if it wasn't the fact that I personally just enjoyed it a lot, I think I might have given up at some point.
I see what you're saying. So you mentioned one thing, which is advantage, and you listed the reasons why you had an advantage. Did you recognize this from the beginning that, hey, I have like a competitive advantage here. I already have, built-in knowledge, built-in passion for this particular industry, or there's something that you look back on later and realize that, hey, that's why I am successful?
I would actually say it's a bit of both. Certainly, when I was pivoting and looking into what my next idea should be, I did think, okay, what are my advantages? Because I'd realized that it's hard to compete in. I mean, the startup entrepreneurship space is incredibly competitive, and there's a lot of other companies that have a lot of funding as well as just a lot more backing and resources. Like, what can I do that has a higher barrier to entry that I already possess? And so that's kind of why I kind of like sat down, thought about it, talked about it with mentors and friends, and came up with this idea. Is because like I said, I speak Japanese fluently. I have a lot of deep connections in Japan because I used to work there. And like these are just things you can't get like off the shelf or just like kind of figure out by browsing online. But however, having said that, as time went on and I kept growing the business, there were other advantages that kind of popped up that I wasn't like fully cognizant of that also helped me grow the business.
Can you say more about those?
For example, like my ethnic background is Chinese. I was born in America. However, I speak Chinese fluently, as well, in addition to Japanese. And eventually, we first had our boxes printed in the States because that was just like small batches, and we had to kind of get like a faster iteration of improving on the boxes. But eventually, as we scaled up, and boxes can be expensive in and of itself. So we had to go looking in China for kind of box printing. And so in that case, a lot of times you have another advantage if you can speak Chinese and speak directly with the box printers in Chinese too. So stuff like that also kind of came up. And when I looked around, a lot of people were getting their boxes printed in China, especially if you're printing like 10, 20, 30,000 at a time.
Got it. So now when you look at your next step, where you're going to take the company next, do you look for where you have advantages, or is that something or do you just make a decision without that in mind? And hopefully there are things in your favor that help you get to where you want to go.
At this point, now that we have more resources as a company and now that we have grown quite a lot, I would say that it's less daunting to go ahead and maybe enter a field where we have fewer advantages because we have kind of, in some regards, proven like trial and error, which is business models, we're kind of experienced to leverage to succeed at these other new ventures. Having said that, I still would like to like kind of work on new expansions of things I'm passionate about personally.
So you mentioned that in order to compete in this space where there's a lot in e-commerce specifically where the people have backing, it's important to have these advantages. So did you have any backing, or is it completely bootstrapped business?
Up until now, we're actually still completely bootstrapped. I mean, and certainly I put in a little bit of money in myself, and I got a little bit of family money, but then we haven't got any traditional investments of sorts yet.
Got it. So when you were first starting out, was this like a full-time thing you're working on, or were you doing something else on the side to help, fund the project, fund your life?
I went full time into this. I wanted to seriously. This was actually, I made a promise with myself that I was going to work on this full time for like at least 6 months to a year. And if it didn't work out, then I had enough runway in terms of my personal savings to last that long. But then if after a year it didn't work out, I was going to go look for a job again because I had been working on startups for like a year already. Yeah.
Right. So did it take that long? Did it take 6 months or a year, or what did you find, or did you hit that realization that this could be something big sooner than that?
I would say that it wasn't necessarily a super aha moment per se, but it was like a slow building realization where I was working on it, I was grinding away at it, and then like the numbers kept increasing. People were excited about it, I got good feedback. Some things need to be improve on that. And I think like once I grew big enough where I was starting to get attention and people even were applying to work for me when I wasn't even like putting out job offers yet. I figured this could be a real thing. And then like the revenue, started increasing and coming in as well. And that made me think that this was something that could get pretty big.
And was that within the first 6 months, or like how soon before you felt comfortable that this was going the right direction?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, just, to be honest with everybody out there, I mean, there's still times now where there's like a little bit of self-doubt. Like, is this the real thing? I don't think there's ever a moment of pure clarity, but certainly to kind of stick with it, I would say it was at the 6-month mark when we kind of hit our first milestone of having surpassed 100 subscribers, like way back in the early days of our business.
Got it. Yeah. So speaking of getting these subscribers, like how were you able to get your first batch of subscribers? How were you able to get people to pay you to subscribe to your service when you were, didn't really have much going on yet?
Yeah, I mean, great question. That's always the big thing, right? With very little funding and bootstrapped, how do you get it out there? A lot of it was from content marketing, I guess is the general term, but a lot of it was organic kind of content we created, from writing articles for our blog to like really religiously working on Instagram and Facebook. Like getting from 100 to 10,000 followers on Instagram was a lot of work. It took daily, if not, multiple times a week posting, to like hashtagging and following and commenting, and just like making sure that you put out good things into the world so that people want to follow you and spread the word about you. On top of that, we were very, very focused on quality and curation. And so like we didn't want to just put out a box just for the sake of it. Like from the very beginning, it's always been something I've been very focused on and careful about. And of course, in the beginning, I had a couple of stumbles, but we always iterated on it as quickly as possible.
So the content marketing that was involved, it was this just like photography or writing articles? Like what was the content marketing?
It was a combination of both of that and then some, where we would try and write lengthy, if possible, like 500, if not 1,000-word articles about different aspects of Japanese culture, from like hot spring bathing to the proper way to eat a traditional meal in Japan, just to kind of really also improve our website SEO, as well as kind of like show that we're like experts in this culture that we're trying to spread throughout the world. On top of that, one of the first teams that I built out internally was the design team, because that was also something that is incredibly important to differentiate myself in the market. Is, does this company have great design, not only in terms of our website and the photography, but also in the package itself, the unboxing experience. So all of that was a lot of focus was put into design.
So when you were creating these articles, and you have a team now, I've seen that on the website at bokksu.com. You guys can check out the team that's working behind this now. Early on, was it just you, or did you have people that were helping to create the content, to write these lengthy articles?
In the very, very beginning, it was just me and one contracted designer who like kind of helped because I have a background in online marketing, in, as I mentioned, Japanese language, food and culture, and in web development. But design has always been kind of something that I never got my hands dirty on yet. And so I contracted a designer. He helped build at the very beginning with the terms of the assets of the logo and the photography. And then after that, it was me running with it. And then I built out starting to get interns to kind of help out with a few things. My first hire, then more interns, the second hire, and it's just been very organic growing since then.
Got it. So you mentioned that you have to have a quality product. Like you said, the curation is an important aspect of this, which I think makes a lot of sense when you're talking about retaining customers, right? They are getting a quality product every month. Those are going to want to keep on keeping their subscription alive. But how do you show brand new visitors the value in the boxes? Like, how do you make sure that comes across when they haven't been able to go through the unboxing experience? They haven't been able to see the packaging and see the quality that you are curating. How do you get that message across to them?
Yeah, great question. Especially, I think in a lot of the subscription box space, it's hard to know what you're going to get because a lot of times it's a bit of a surprise. But for us at Bokksu, we are incredibly proud of the like local artisans that we work with in Japan that kind of have been creating these snacks and teas for hundreds of years. So we always publish exactly what's going to be in the box. We have a section of our website called Upcoming Box, where we not only list out the snacks and descriptions as what you're going to get, but also we always try and, in a timely manner, upload an unboxing video where we unbox the video, and so they can see even the like quantity of items they get and what it feels like. So you get like a little bit of a taste of it in advance with your eyes, so that when you subscribe, you can then try it with your tongue later.
I see. So you are using video, it sounds like, to show them what's coming up in the box before it actually is available. So this unboxing experience, something I think is an important aspect that I think lots of stores might ignore, where the packaging is sometimes an afterthought. What is your process for designing a great unboxing experience?
For me, part of it comes down to like what do I kind of envision if what's the difference between a kind of curated premium subscription box and buying something on an e-commerce like marketplace like Amazon. And a big part of it is that if you buy just like normal goods or anything from like a normal e-commerce store, it just comes in a shipper box and there's just some packing material and it's very haphazardly put together. And so to kind of how can we think outside of the box and kind of go beyond that is with the first step. And then the second step is to kind of, as I mentioned, reiterate, like the very, very first iteration of our box was a store-bought craft brown box that was just kind of like a bakery box. And I just like slapped a Boxu sticker on it. So when I was doing the beta and kind of getting started. But after that, I would kind of iterated on that, and I got it custom printed with the branding, and then moving to as we got bigger and bigger to like what's the most premium thing you can feel, and like I kind of fell in love with this concept of like this gift box that you're kind of gifting yourself something special every month, which is why our main classic box is actually a separate top and bottom lid piece where you like kind of slide it off and it makes this
this whoosh sound.
Gorgeous whoosh sound, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about, yeah. And you open it, and we always make sure the first thing you see is this what we call the tasting guide, where then the tasting guide cover has some beautiful image of Japan, whether it be a region or a food or a season. In our April box that was Blossoming Spring, we had gorgeous pictures of cherry blossoms as soon as you open the box. It's kind of like transport you, yeah.
Yeah, so this process you went through, if for anyone else out there that wants to improve on their packaging, improve on the unboxing experience, what tips do you have there on finding vendors to work with to create something for you?
Yeah, there are so many vendors out there nowadays. It can definitely be a little bit tough. I've personally found a couple of good ones. But a lot of it has to do just like shopping around. I would say, my mistakes that hopefully other people can learn from is that sometimes I didn't plan far enough in advance. I suppose that's a big problem for a lot of startups, but where I would, the deadline would be coming up and I would just have to kind of go with one. But my best advice would be to try like 2 to 3 different vendors. There's, if you just Google around, there's a whole bunch of them out there that will do kind of box printing for subscription boxes. Submit your the design, get like a couple of sample boxes printed, and see which quality you like better, because the quality can be vastly different between them. And that'll be the first step to really ensure that initial quality. And then from then on, you can then kind of keep working with them, or maybe keep shopping around for box vendors. Another great way I would say is to look for referrals and recommendations. One of the ways I got the current vendor we work with in China, even all the way over there, was from a referral from a Facebook group called Subscription School, I believe, where then people were kind of talking about the vendors they used.
Got it. So when you have a design in mind, what kind of assets do you need to provide these vendors so that they design the box, or they print the box, they create the box the way that you want?
I believe that as I mentioned, I personally don't handle a lot of design, but you would submit a PDF with the exact dimensions and kind of the shape of the box. And there are these like kind of die lines that they can give you that's templated. The vast majority of boxes, unless you're going for something incredibly custom made, like the templates and die lines exist. So you can get those and kind of work off of those to then submit them.
Got it. So you mentioned planning far in advance, and I think with a business model like a subscription service, it's one of those models that can become like a logistical nightmare. You have to coordinate so many different things. Everything is on a timeline. How far in advance do you have to prepare for an upcoming box?
Oh, that's a really good question, because that has the answer has evolved over time for that. In the very beginning, we were literally planning just a month or two before, just because things were just so tight. We had so little manpower. Nowadays, now that things are a little bit more flexible, and we've set up our kind of system a little bit better, we do plan at least 6 months in advance. So for example, it's around May or June right now. We already started planning October and November, and like kind of getting ramped up for the holiday season too, which is always a big time for us. So that gives us a little bit more breathing room when it rolls around, so it's not as stressful too.
Now, how do you estimate things like inventory in that case, where you don't know for sure how many customers or how many subscribers you'll have 6 months down the line, but then you're going through this process of procurement already?
Yeah, I mean that's always a big struggle is how to get the perfect forecasting number where you're not under, you're not over. A lot of it for us recently has been very data driven, which is definitely the way that I'm excited for us to go into the future running the business that way. I mean, last year it was less so because we didn't have data to kind of base off of. Um, but we kind of looking at last year's trends and like kind of the peaks and valleys and kind of factor into our own personal like goals of how hard we want to push to increase the traffic and increase the conversions in for that month. And so a lot of it is the kind of basing off the month after month or season or quarter after quarter growth.
So once you do have someone that's subscribing for the first time, what are some ways to? I think that the magic number everyone looks at is the churn rate, right? How often are they coming back to and not canceling the service? What are some ways that you found to help you successfully navigate that to make sure that customers are consistently coming back? I think one thing we touched on already was making sure it's a quality product, making sure that you're actually delivering on the promise of them, the promise that you're making to them when they are giving you their money for the subscription, but anything else to help to kind of remind them of the value to make sure that they continue to subscribe?
Oh yeah, we try our best to basically pull out all the stops. And actually, a good part of it that I learned from is from like even Shopify articles. There's been a lot of amazing Shopify how-to articles and kind of how to retain customers and win back loyalty. Things we do include the day after, anytime a new customer buys from our site, I have an email that goes out to them that's personally actually from my personal email address. It's not just a support email, thanking them for signing up and that they're always welcome to give me any feedback because we always want to keep improving the service. And that kind of little personal touch has gotten me a lot of really warm replies from customers saying, wow, thank you. It's so rare that companies nowadays would kind of spend this time to listen to their customers. And this is something that doesn't take too much time because you can automate it, but yet still get that like direct pulse on what your customers want or need or have trouble with. That's one thing. Two, inside the box, in addition to, of course, the high quality curation of snacks and the tea pairing and the tasting guide, I always include what we internally call a founder card, but it's kind of like a card that is from me that is like kind of explaining about like thanking them or maybe talking about some new changes of improvements in the service. So they always kind of feel like they're part of this like inner circle of the company. And the funny anecdote is that in the very, very beginning, when we only had like a handful, a few dozen subscribers, I used to handwrite those cards just to have that personal touch. But then once we started getting bigger, I couldn't do that anymore because I was literally spending hours handwriting these cards. And then we moved to me just signing them, but then now it's all printed with like my signature kind of printed on it. But that after a while, you kind of have to find the scalable ways for things as you evolve up.
For sure, yeah. I can't imagine with 1 million snacks shipped out that you could personally write a letter for everybody. That'd be your full job, maybe more than that. So, what are some of your favorite pieces of constructive, or what is maybe some of your favorite constructive feedback that you've gotten from this kind of open communication with your customers that you've been able to implement?
Oh wow. There's been everything, right, from constructive feedback to positive ones, but let's see. So some of the constructive ones to start off on that is even just like UX design things like, during the checkout process, I was confused, which is the shipping address or billing address or why I had to do it this way, which allowed me to immediately just go in and make those changes, especially because Shopify and I use Recharge as a subscription platform, make it pretty easy to make some of these changes. To things like, I really like these snacks, but these weren't really like to my taste. And like, if I get enough of that feedback, then I kind of know how to like iterate and improve the curation for future months. To even like the fact that they really enjoy receiving this product and how they share it and how they kind of use it. I think one of my favorite positive feedbacks was this granddaughter that whose grandmother is Japanese and has been living in the States for like over 20 years or something, and hasn't been back to Japan since. And that like she subscribed to it for her grandmother, so that the
Wow.
grandmother would get like a kind of a piece of her home every single month delivered to her. And her grandmother was just delighted the first time she got the box, and it kind of really brought the family even closer together. And that made me so happy.
Yeah, I can imagine that will certainly get you going, right? To work hard on the business to bring that kind of joy to someone's life. So I'm looking at the website, and one thing I noticed was that there are different frequencies for the boxes. There's the every month, every 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. How did you figure out that these were the frequencies that people wanted?
Well, so for us, we were trying to set it up in a way where it's still very flexible. We like to be very open and transparent. I mean, as I mentioned, from the feedback to even just our policies, our customers can pause, skip, deactivate anytime. And one of the things we wanted to do is allow them that flexibility, but then also if they love the product and want to get it more, they can subscribe to 3 months or 6 months or 9 months at a, prepaid. And then that way it just kind of rolls in without them worrying about it on a monthly basis in terms of payment. I guess we could have added in a 9 month. It just felt like there'd be a little too much option because you can just do 3 months for 3 times. So just 1, 3, 6, 12, I think was like a standard when I did my competitive research in the industry as well.
Got it. And so you mentioned earlier about how there's an upcoming box that you display on the website, but then also I see here that there are past boxes that you have listed. What's the purpose behind that? What's the purpose of showing people what's been released in the past?
It's kind of what I was mentioning a little bit earlier, which is that we're incredibly proud of each and every snack and tea and more product that we put into our boxes. So we want people to see what has come in the past. Like every theme is very meticulously curated. Our sourcing team works very hard, and there's a lot of pressure on them to kind of perform, especially if a month does really well. There's always this expectation you gotta go better the next month. So we don't want to lose that kind of historical pride, and so we list that for people to see. Like this is what was in previous months. And this is kind of what you could get as an example of future months, because we published the upcoming box. But if people are wondering what is going to kind of come later in the summer or in the fall, they can look historically and be like, oh, it looks like every year in the fall they do like a fall, like gourmet fall harvest box, and every year in the spring they do like a blossoming spring box. But the curation's a little bit different, so they can kind of expect that year round to see what they get. On top of that, I want to kind of show the evolution of the company. Because if you actually go pretty far back to our first boxes, the curations are different than what they are now. Like we've improved over time, where in the very beginning, we used to have 5 or 6 different types of products, but like multiples of each. Nowadays, we've increased both the quantity and the variety, just because our supply chain has gotten stronger. We have better relationships with our suppliers. And we've gotten that feedback from customers that they want more variety and different types in the box. And so I'm kind of, despite the fact that the older boxes look a little bit emptier in terms of the variety, I want people to see that we've improved and we've listened to their feedback.
Yeah, I think it serves as much value as the upcoming boxes, just because you can see what's already possible. Like what are some things what are the promises that the company's already delivered on, and be able to see that, I think builds a lot of trust with the visitor and encourages them to try it out. So when there's a product that you release, or when there's a box that you release that has a product in it that everyone's super excited about, they love a lot, what do you do with that? Like are you able to put that in a future box, or is it just a one-time deal only, or do you sell that one-off on your website? Like what's the process when you get the feedback that lots of the customers love a particular product?
Yeah, for the first maybe year of the company, when I first started, that feedback was really helpful for kind of iterating, as mentioned, and knowing what to put in the box. But then it was a bit of so many customers ask like, oh, how do I get this delicious like white strawberry snack product that I can't get anywhere else? And that was like something that we then worked hard on. It took us about 6 months to a year to then kind of fully launch what we call the global Boxu market. And now, like starting from January of this past year, we do actually sell many of our popular products on demand, one-off on our store, where people can, and then they can either go through there from our Boxu Market page, where it has this beautiful collection of all of the snacks laid out by category, or they can go into the past boxes and they can actually click in through there, and they can order the things that they really enjoyed. And what is especially wonderful about that is that for us, we have direct relationships with over 50 snack and tea makers, like artisanal local makers in Japan. And we are the global exclusive retailer for most of them. So if people really, really liked some specific product, they have to get it through us. Otherwise, they can't get it. So we definitely needed to provide that on-demand marketplace service. And very happy that we have. That's been pretty tough as well, but it's been getting a lot of great feedback from our customers.
So what's your approach when you've as a team identified a particular product that you want to add into the box? How do you begin the process of finding a vendor that sells it, and how do you approach them? Like, is it a process that's pretty well trodden where they understand the business model that you're coming with, or something that you have to educate the vendors on?
It's definitely not a well-trodden business model in Japan, actually, to be honest. It was very much a struggle in the beginning, and it's still sometimes difficult now. We've gotten a lot better at it, at the kind of almost sales pitch to the suppliers, but we have to do a lot of education because subscription boxes or just a lot of e-commerce in general hasn't quite taken off nearly as much in Japan as it has in the rest of America and the West. So when we first contact them, first and foremost, it has to be in Japanese. And so you have to be fluent in not only the language, but the business culture in terms of emails and in terms of kind of assuaging any concerns they might have about us as a company that's outside of the country. And so once we kind of start making that contact with them and talking to them, explaining the product, we try and kind of sell them on the fact that we have this worldwide audience of people that they can then reach, their product can reach to, and that it's really a great way for them to kind of expand their global reach. And that kind of usually works with some of them.
Are you one of the first people to approach them with this idea, or have they heard it from other businesses in the past?
For the majority of our makers, we are the first that approach them about it, yes.
Okay.
A lot of our and kind of other competitors out there that might be doing something similar or something kind of related primarily work through like importers or wholesalers. We're the first that actually directly contact with these like local makers in Japan.
Got it. So why do you think the other competitors aren't taking that same approach? Like what are the not necessarily disadvantages, but what makes it a more complicated approach where you're working directly with these with the source essentially?
Part of it has to do with the fact that any competitors that we may have mostly work with a more mass-produced snacks. So if we want to talk specifically Japanese snacks, people may be familiar with like Pocky or Haichu. These are things that are pretty mass-produced by the big makers in Japan. And in order to acquire these products, you generally have to work through the wholesalers because they sell to the wholesalers. They produce in big quantities. But in order to, if we want to get more of the like authentic local stuff that you get in like Hokkaido or Kyushu or region Okinawa, these like amazing regions in Japan, you got to go directly to the manufacturers because a lot of times they don't sell the wholesalers. They kind of just sell themselves because they're like a small team of 50 that's been around for decades or centuries, like passing down to the families and such.
Got it. So I want to take this back a little bit. So before you get to this part where you identify the product and everything, when you guys sit down and say, okay, we have a box coming up, 6 months down the road, what is that meeting like? What are the considerations that come into play when you guys begin to design a box for the first time?
I would say that a lot of it comes down to what fits the right month or season. Now that we've been in business for a good 2 years, actually this is our 2-year anniversary, May 2016 is when we launched, so it's been a pretty exciting ride. In the first year, there was a lot of trial and error. Certainly where we never done this before, so we would try out a theme that was maybe exciting or fun, or we would personally like, and then we would see the customer feedback from it, whether it be through emails or through, we have a review section on our website as well, where every single product and our website can be reviewed by our customers, and so we take that feedback very seriously as well. And as now we have 2 years of data collected, we know what customers like, and we also still know what we want to share with them. It's always difficult to strike this balance. So for example, as I mentioned, 6 months from now, in October, there's this fall harvest, and Japanese people eat very seasonally. They eat only certain foods in the fall and certain foods in the spring, like as I mentioned, like cherry blossom flavored things and strawberries in the spring, chestnuts and like persimmons in the fall, which is a very common fall food. Sometimes it also has to do with the weather in terms of the like chocolate. We ship quite a lot in the winter, but in the summer we have to actually cut back on it because with international shipping from Japan to the world, the package is in transit for weeks at a time and could potentially melt halfway through. So all of those things come into consideration.
So you recommend then if anyone is creating a subscription service to have themes around each box?
I would think it depends on the box they're trying to sell. If they're trying to actually, if it's more of a discovery box where they can learn more about some culture or some, like you're trying to teach people things or they're trying to kind of give them this full unboxing experience, then yeah, I think themes are great. That's been one of the biggest positive feedbacks we've gotten from our customers is how they really enjoy that it's not just eating delicious, authentic snacks. It's also that they get to learn about Japan in a meaningful way every month while they're eating and having a great time.
Got it. So I'll talk a little about the website. I think it's a beautifully designed website, so I recommend anyone out there check it out. Was this all done in-house with your designers, or did you outsource any of this?
It was actually all done in-house. Shopify made it incredibly easy, where everything is templated and there's themes. I personally also use my favorite is Out of the Sandbox is one of the theme developers, and they have this wonderful theme called Turbo, which has all these really great features from sections to being able to just add video and kind of move things around. And it's also an incredibly fast theme. So things load very quickly. So it increases your SEO. And thanks to just how easy the templating was, I was able to start. I actually launched the website by myself in just like a week when I first got started.
Yeah, it's one thing I've heard is that lots of people can launch the website without even having to pay for it right away, to make sure you launch within that trial period that you get. So, personally for you, what are some of your favorite parts of the website? What's some of your favorite pages on the website?
For me, this was kind of an idea that I personally championed in the company and has borne fruit in terms of its usefulness in forming community. In terms of direct sales may not be as important, but like in terms of just fostering this community, which is what I care a lot about with Boxu Worldwide, is our community page. So there's a page on the website where we not only pull in Instagram feed of like people that post Boxu around the world. So you can see that like people in Sri Lanka to Korea to America, of course, and to Europe are enjoying their Boxus in many different scenarios. We also have something called Member Spotlight, where we actually reach out to a Boxu member that's been with us for a while, and we interview them in like a very kind of loose, cute, kind of casual 10-question FAQ type of situation. And they respond and they include a headshot. And so it's kind of like the multi-faces of Boxu members around the world.
So this community page, are you using a specific application to pull in all of these social media posts?
Yeah, there's one called Juicer that's fairly reasonably priced and does a great job. They have really good support too. Every time I reach out, they respond really quickly, and it really cleanly pulls in Instagram. I think it's like $20 a month. Highly recommend it. In terms of the member spotlight, that's simply just another Shopify blog. That's like a separate blog from our normal blog that we create and I pull in.
Got it. So you mentioned a couple of things so far. You mentioned Recharge. You mentioned that you're using Out of the Sandbox's Turbo theme for the website. Juicer, there's another application to pull in all those social media posts. What other applications do you use to help run the business or help run the store?
Let's see. There's a lot of great ones, and I am also very appreciative of the support I've gotten from a lot of them. This, like a really fun one recently that came up because of this customer feedback, as I mentioned, and we were always listening to them, was a customer reached out asking, wow, I wish there was a way that I could just add this product to my wish list so that I can buy it later because I can't buy it right now. And I was like, oh, wow, that sounds like that might be a lot of work to have to code that myself. And when I just looked around in Shopify App Store, there's this app called Wishlist Plus that did exactly everything we wanted and needed. And I was able to launch that within minutes. And then the customer was delighted that we took their feedback seriously and immediately launched it in our store. On top of that, there's we use Klaviyo for, of course, our mail list because it's integrated very closely with Shopify. Gorgeous is what we use for our customer service tickets. We used to use Zendesk, but because Gorgeous is specifically a Shopify integration, it can pull in a lot more data into its API interface that Zendesk may not be able to. And it also integrates with Recharge and Klaviyo and all these other, the ecosystem is quite wonderful. So it makes work a lot more efficient and fast.
In this CRM, Gorgias, what kind of data does it pull in that you're able to use?
For example, when you're looking at a ticket inside Gorgias, on the right-hand side, there's widgets that show you the customer's last orders, their lifetime spend, their shipping address, tracking number. If you register with tracking number, you can also see it pulls in from Recharge if they're an active subscriber or not, and you can see how many points that they've accumulated through Loyalty Line, where you also use Loyalty Line for a loyalty program. And not only can you see it, but you can actually modify those things in Gorgias. You can cancel their last order, you can refund them, you can give them updates, and it automatically just kind of like pulls that in, and you don't have to type. It's all done with macros, and it's very seamless.
So because the big part of the experience for the customers is this unboxing that you go through, do you guys make use of like influencers or working with other people to unbox your products?
Yes, that was actually one of our early strategies as well. In addition to the organic content and Facebook and Instagram, was with influencers. And that's been definitely a tough trial and error in a lot of ways, where it's influencer strategy can work, but there's not a lot of consistent, easy conditions to help figure out who works or not. A lot of it has to do with putting it a lot out there and see kind of what comes back to you. For us, we experimented with Facebook, we experimented with Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, like a whole bunch of the social media platforms and influencers there. What we found has been most effective has been YouTube. And specifically, it has to be YouTube influencers that have really engaged audiences, and that the influencers themselves really love eating. Because our product is so kind of hands-on and sensual in a lot of ways. You have to unbox it and show the snacks and eat it and talk about it. Like a good 5 to 10 minute YouTube video, it gets the job done a lot better than like an Instagram post.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. So what are the future plans? Like, what do you guys got planned for the remainder of this year? Like, where do you want to see the business go over the next year?
Yeah, we have a lot of big plans actually. Now that I've built up a team of, like as I mentioned when I first started, it was just me. But then now we have a team of 9 full-time starting in June. And so it's been a really exciting growth from bootstrap up until this. And once we have everybody in and all trained up, we want to start expanding to not only other boxes, but to really build out our Boxu market. We really believe that in addition to the subscription box where we can educate and teach people about our wonderful products, we want to be that portal to authentic Japanese products to the world, where people can buy it on demand anytime from our website. And that's going to be one of our big focuses. On top of that, I personally love tea. I drink tea every day, multiple times a day. And I want to kind of start building that out a little bit more, where up until now, we always put in a complimentary tea pairing that kind of goes with the snacks of that month or goes with the theme. In the future, we potentially would work directly with the tea farmers in Japan to kind of create our own Boxu branded teas. As now that we've kind of built up a reputation as like this purveyor and curator of premium Japanese products, to then sell that on our market, put it in our box, and just kind of get that into shelves around the world.
Awesome. So Boxu.com, BOKKSU.com is a website. Thank you again so much for your time, Danny.
Thank you, Felix. I really enjoyed talking with you about this.
Here's a sneak peek for what's in store in the next Shopify Masters episode.
In our category, at least, upsells sort of creates this distraction. And it's like, oh, I'm not sure if I need that upsell. You know what? Let me save this page and I'll come back.
Thanks for listening to Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. To start your store today, visit shopify.com/masters to claim your extended 30-day free trial. Also, for this episode's show notes, head over to shopify.com/blog.